Welcome, dear dreamers, to the Dreamy Tale Universe. Tonight, let us take you on a peaceful journey along the coast, to a little cottage by the sea. Get cozy, take a deep breath, and let your mind drift. This is the story of Eleanor, and the life she found when she chose simplicity and stillness. There was a little cottage, quiet and gentle, nestled between two soft green hills. It sat at the edge of the sea, where the breeze always carried the scent of salt and wildflowers. The sea whispered day and night. Waves brushed the shore like lullabies. The sky seemed bigger here, bluer during the day, softer at dusk. Eleanor arrived one foggy morning in early spring. She stepped out of a small blue car, looked at the cottage, and smiled. Her bags were light, just clothes, a few old books, and a collection of tea tins with worn labels. She had left the city behind. Its tall buildings, its noise, the rush of it all. It no longer suited her. Her heart was tired. Her soul needed quiet. The key to the cottage had a little ribbon tied to it, blue, like the sea. She turned the key in the old door and stepped inside. The air smelled like wood and history. Dusty in a comforting way. Like stories had been lived here. She opened every window. The breeze wandered in. Curtains danced. The sea called to her. But first, she unpacked. Slowly. Mindfully. A bookshelf by the fireplace soon held her novels. A chipped teacup was placed by the window. Her favorite scarf was draped across the back of a rocking chair. She made tea. Sat down. Listened. That first night, Eleanor stepped outside before bed. The stars blinked gently above. The sea was dark, but calm. The wind was cool and kind. She stood there for a long time, wrapped in an old cardigan. Breathing. Listening. Being. The cottage didn't just feel like a new chapter. It felt like home. The morning light arrived slowly. Soft and pale, brushing against the white curtains as birds chirped in the distance. Eleanor woke to the smell of the ocean and the sound of waves nudging the shore. She stretched beneath her quilt and smiled. Today would be her first full day in this new place. She made her tea just the way she liked it, peppermint with a hint of honey, and stepped out onto the small wooden porch. The air was fresh and slightly damp. A fog still lingered, softening the world. In the distance, a path curved away from the cottage, winding between tall grasses and scattered stones. Eleanor had noticed it the day before but had been too tired to explore. She decided today was the day. She put on her soft boots, wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, and began walking. The earth was quiet beneath her steps. Every now and then, the breeze would carry a whisper of lavender. As she rounded the hill, the village came into view. Tiny rooftops peeked through the mist. Smoke rose lazily from a few chimneys. It was like a painting, still and gentle. The first person she saw was a woman arranging bread in the window of a small bakery. The scent drifted to Eleanor, warm and comforting. "Good morning," the woman said with a kind smile. "Morning," Eleanor replied softly. "Your bread smells wonderful. It's oat and rosemary today. Just finished baking." Eleanor smiled. "I'll take a loaf." She tucked it into her basket and continued walking through the village. Everyone she passed greeted her with a gentle nod or a warm hello. There was no rush. No noise. Just simple kindness. At the end of the lane, she found a little shop with a wooden sign that read the lavender path. Curious, she stepped inside. The air was rich with the scent of dried herbs and flowers. Bundles of lavender hung from the beams. There were shelves of candles, soaps, old books, and soft wool scarves dyed in gentle shades. Behind the counter stood a quiet older man with silver hair and a soft voice. He greeted her with a nod. "Welcome. First time in?" "Yes," Eleanor said. "I just moved into the old sea cottage." "Ah. That place has a peaceful heart. Suits you, I think." She smiled, surprised by how right it felt. The man handed her a small sachet of dried lavender. "For your pillow. It helps with sleep. No charge. A welcome gift." Eleanor thanked him and tucked it into her pocket. On her walk back, she followed a side trail that led her through a meadow. The grass brushed against her legs. Bees buzzed near clusters of wildflowers. In the distance, the sea shimmered. She paused beneath a tree, took off her shoes, and let the earth touch her skin. For the first time in years, she felt light. Untangled. The village was small. But it was enough. It had warmth. Faces that looked you in the eye. A rhythm that matched her own. Back at the cottage, she made lunch, a slice of the rosemary bread with soft cheese and a few olives. She ate slowly, watching the sea. Later, she opened one of her old books and read by the window. The lavender sachet now rested beside her, its scent rising softly with each turn of the page. As the sun dipped, she lit a small candle. Its flame flickered gently in the stillness. Another day was ending. But something new was beginning. Dear listener, if this moment feels gentle to your heart, consider subscribing to our channel. Every click helps us tell more calm stories like this one. And if you haven't yet, share with us, where and when are you listening from? That night, Eleanor placed the sachet under her pillow and lay down with a peaceful sigh. Outside, the waves moved in rhythm. The stars gathered again. Sleep came easily. The lavender path had led her home. The third morning at the cottage brought clouds. Soft and heavy, rolling in from the sea. The sky was a cool silver, and the wind carried the smell of rain. Eleanor didn't mind. She had always liked the rain, especially the kind that whispered rather than shouted. She lit a small fire in the hearth for the first time. The flames caught gently, crackling in the quiet room. The scent of smoke and warmth filled the space. She wrapped herself in her favorite cardigan, the one with the patch on the sleeve, and made a cup of chamomile tea. She watched the first drops hit the window, trailing down slowly, like lazy streams. Outside, the sea had turned a deeper shade of blue. Still calm, but mysterious now. Like it held stories in its depth. Eleanor sat by the window and opened a notebook. She hadn't written in months. But now, the words came softly, like they'd been waiting for her. She wrote about the rain, about how it felt like the world was being washed clean, about the cozy safety of the fire and the hum of the storm. She wrote about quiet, about healing. Time passed slowly. In the afternoon, she baked for the first time in her new kitchen. Simple oat scones with cinnamon and honey. The smell filled the little cottage and made it feel even more like hers. She set one on a plate, poured another cup of tea, and curled up by the fire. The rain grew steadier. Soft drumming on the roof. A lullaby for the house. As the hours passed, Eleanor read an old favorite, one of those stories where nothing grand happens, but everything feels right. Her eyes grew heavy, but she didn't fight it. She let herself nap on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, the fire a warm companion. When she woke, the room was dim. The rain hadn't stopped, but now it sang gently through the eaves. She lit 2 candles and moved to the kitchen to prepare a simple dinner. A warm bowl of soup. Bread from the day before. A small bowl of fresh herbs. She ate slowly, in silence. Her thoughts were calm. Her heart, quiet. After dinner, she walked to the front porch with an umbrella and listened to the sea through the rainfall. The world felt hushed. Sacred, even. She breathed in the cool, rainy air and whispered a thank you to the night. Inside, she returned to the fire. She turned on a soft lamp and opened her journal again. She wrote about stillness. About how something as small as a rainy day could remind her that peace didn't have to be loud. That joy could be slow. That night, she added a few drops of lavender oil to her pillow. The rain was still falling. Steady. Loving. She tucked herself into bed, pulled the blanket close, and closed her eyes. And sleep came. Deep and kind. Outside, the waves rolled on. The next morning, the rain had passed. The sky was pale and open. Light pooled gently on the windowsill, soft and golden, like it had been filtered through honey. Eleanor rose slowly. She felt well rested. Her dreams had been vivid but calm, like wandering through warm fog, holding a candle. She brewed a pot of green tea this time, added a slice of lemon, and stepped out onto the front porch. The air was fresh, cleaned by the rain. The grasses shimmered with dew. Everything looked new, awakened. Today, she had no errands, no appointments, no to-do list, just time. She remembered the overgrown patch behind the cottage. On her first day, she had peeked out the back window and seen a fenced garden, forgotten by time. She decided to explore it. With gloves and a little trowel in hand, Eleanor stepped through the back door and down a stone path cracked with moss. The gate creaked as she opened it, like it hadn't moved in years. Inside, wild things had grown freely. Lavender had taken over one corner. Rosemary pushed through the wooden fence. Tall grasses and sleepy flowers leaned into one another like old friends. Eleanor smiled. This garden had been waiting, just like her. She knelt down and pulled away some weeds. Gently. No rush. Every handful of earth released a rich, deep scent, damp and green. She uncovered the edge of a stone bench. It was covered in moss, but still strong. She sat there for a long time, hands resting in her lap, listening to the birds in the trees. She stayed until the sun moved behind a cloud, and a breeze rustled through the lavender. That afternoon, she wandered into the village and found a shop with flower seeds and simple tools. She bought a few packets, wild poppies, soft bluebells, and forget-me-nots. The shopkeeper, a cheerful woman with silver rings on her fingers, added a packet of marigolds to Eleanor's basket. For protection, she said with a wink. Old garden wisdom. Eleanor returned home and tucked the seeds into a drawer. She wouldn't rush. The garden had its own time. Over the next week, she visited it every day. She cleared space, dug gently, spoke softly to the plants, as if greeting new neighbors. And each day, she felt lighter. Her thoughts wandered to nothing and everything. She remembered moments from childhood. Her grandmother's hands. The first time she saw snow. A poem she once knew by heart. She began to call it her garden of quiet hours. There was something sacred about working with the earth, letting it stain her fingers, feeling small and steady in its rhythm. One morning, while watering the lavender, Eleanor noticed something fluttering nearby. A butterfly, pale yellow, dancing from stem to stem. She followed it for a moment, laughing softly. That evening, Eleanor took a small journal into the garden. She wrote beneath the twilight sky, sitting on the mossy bench. She didn't write about goals or plans, just feelings, sensations, the texture of the day. The quiet hours had a language of their own. Later, she lit a few candles and placed them along the garden path. Their glow flickered like fireflies, guiding her back to the cottage. Before bed, she placed the marigold seeds beside her teacup. Tomorrow, she would plant them by the gate. Sleep came slowly that night. Not because her mind was restless, but because she wanted to savor the stillness just a bit longer. And when it came, it was like falling into warm soil, soft and full of dreams. Outside, the wind brushed against the lavender, and the garden of quiet hours listened and grew. The days stretched out gently, like the tide pulling across the sand. Eleanor had started to know them by heart. Each morning carried its own music, the hush of the sea, the birds in the lavender, the rustle of her cardigan as she stepped into the light. She had found a rhythm, one that felt quiet but full, like a song only she could hear. In the village, faces had become familiar. The baker always saved her the crustiest loaf. The florist tucked a sprig of mint into her market bag. The shopkeeper at the lavender path waved as she passed by, always humming. One afternoon, Eleanor was invited to the village tea circle. Just a few neighbors, a thermos of chai, and folding chairs under the elm tree. She was hesitant at first, but something in her heart nudged her forward. They spoke softly, laughed gently, and asked her kind questions, not prying, just welcoming. She listened more than she spoke. But when she did speak, they listened. She felt seen. Not for what she had done, or where she had been, but simply for who she was now. Belonging, she realized, wasn't a loud declaration. It was a quiet settling, like roots finding earth. Dear listener, if you've been enjoying Eleanor's journey, please consider subscribing to our channel. We pour so much care into these stories, and your support helps us keep sharing soft, soothing worlds like this one. And if you haven't already, leave a comment and tell us, where are you listening from tonight? When did you press play? We'd love to know who's dreaming with us. Back at the cottage, the marigolds had begun to sprout. Tiny green shoots poking through the soil by the garden gate. Eleanor knelt beside them and whispered a thank you. Not just to the seeds, but to the days that had held her. To the wind, the tea, the quiet hours, the books, the faces. One evening, she took a walk along the cliff path. The sky was painted in watercolor, lavender, gold, and the faintest blush of rose. She paused at the edge, where the sea opened wide before her. The waves moved slow and strong, steady. She thought of how far she had come. Not in distance, but in feeling. She had come home. To herself. As the stars blinked above, Eleanor whispered a wish, not for change, but for more of the same. For days like this. For peace without reason. For soft endings and gentle starts. That night, she placed her journal beside the bed, the marigold packet tucked into its pages. She slipped beneath the quilt and closed her eyes. The sea sang outside. The lavender swayed. The cottage, the garden, the village, all held her in a warm hush. And sleep arrived like a familiar friend, carrying her into dreams made of tea, soil, firelight, and stars. Thank you, dear dreamer, for sharing this quiet journey with us. We hope you feel rested, safe, and held in calm. If you'd like more stories like this, be sure to subscribe and explore our Dreamy Tale universe. Until next time, good night, and sweetest dreams.